Hi, this is Patrick with Trusty Huckster Mercantile with another haul video. I took a week off this week. Well, took a week off of thrifting. My day job had me headed to Pennsylvania this week for our national sales meeting, and pretty much every moment of every day was completely scheduled in meetings. So I did not have any thrifting opportunities this week. When I got back, I had made some sales on Etsy and I needed to replenish my inventory, replenish my stock, and realized I had actually quite a bit of inventory that I had not shared on the haul video. And it all came from an antique or a vintage, an estate sale. Yeah, I knew the word was there somewhere. It came from an estate sale, and I have not done a lot of those. I've done a handful. I did a couple really early on and had mixed feelings about them. Sometimes if you go there the first day, you've got the best selection, but for a reseller, it's sometimes difficult if the estate sale is done by someone who, for lack of a better term, knows what they're doing. They're going to price things that will be attractive to collectors and to end users, and in some cases very attractive to collectors and end users, but not necessarily a price point that resellers are able to pick up and resell and make any real money on them. So then I did a few where I went the very last day, and sure, sometimes you get half price, but then it might be a little bit picked over. But I've got some eclectic taste, so sometimes I can find things. So this one came up as a result of a friend of mine. Her cousin actually runs it. And so she said, hey, they got me some photographs in advance. I got some price quotes and liked what I saw, so we scheduled to go the last day, said if any of that was still available, get it at half price, and that is what we did. So got a few things to show. A little bit of an eclectic, an eclectic mix. The estate sale was very, very heavily filled with Japanese and Asian items. The individuals were both Japanese, I believe, and either they were both Japanese or I know at least at some point they had lived in Japan. And many of these items had some of the boxes that they had from when they were shipped from Japan. And it was somewhat interesting seeing some of the origins and some of the pieces that they had kind of collected for their own personal decor here in America, considering they had Japanese origin. So they had some great pieces, a lot of porcelain, a lot of pottery, and then just some odds and ends that I ended up picking up. And one of them is one of my favorites. It does not fall into the Asian background or origin. It is a mouse. A very weird looking mouse platter or tray. You can see it's relatively shallow, has a couple of different compartments, and in his hands he holds salt and pepper cheese. So little wedges of cheese, have the stoppers in the bottom, holes in the top, salt and pepper. Now, because they're salt and pepper, I find this piece odd because it's a mouse. So I would think, maybe it's a cheese tray, cheese platter, crackers, something along those lines. But then why would you need salt and pepper? So it's not even a meat tray. I don't know what you would need a little set of salt and pepper to go with this tray. Anyway, admittedly the price was a little bit high, but hey, I was getting it for half price. And even at half price, it was higher than I typically would pay. But this was the first time I was working with this estate sale agent, and like I said, it was the cousin of a friend of mine, and I kind of wanted to make sure I made a good impression so that as she got used to what I'm looking for, she might keep me in the loop as she finds other items, which shockingly, she's doing an estate sale coming up, and I had mentioned I had a newfound love of Lillian porcelain, thinking I would never find it here because it's Austrian, and I had never heard of it until my visit to Austria. And in the next show she went to, or the next estate sale she was organizing, they had Lillian porcelain, so you never know. Anyway, it was $22. And not saying that, again, from a collector's perspective, 22 is probably, it's a very cute piece. I paid 11, and I'm not really sure what I'm going to be able to sell it for. It is not marked. It has the general appearance of possibly I do it ceramics at home piece, maybe. But the face is very well done, and the detail is very well structured, like the nose and the teeth, for something that would come out of a mold in somebody's home. And I do know of which I speak because my mother ran Fran's Hobby Corner for my entire childhood, teaching ceramic lessons in our basement. And when that got tired, she got tired of that. She moved on to macrame and toll painting and every possible hobby you could think of from the 70s and early 80s. This seems, again, like a fairly high quality piece. The glaze was poured on the back. You can see there's kind of drip marks from that. Again, not something that would typically be done in a home ceramic studio. It would typically be brushed on. It does not go all the way into the crevices, but it also, because it's poured and the way they let it dry, you can still see the pour marks. It's not the highest quality glaze. So I'm not 100% sure. The other piece of the puzzle is possibly a red herring, but it came in a Marshall Fields for Christmas box. Marshall Fields for Christmas. It does fit the box very nicely, but it's just a shirt box. You know, it's not necessarily a box that would have been on the shelf, but in it there is a gift tag. Let's see if we can get that to focus. And the gift tag is dated 1988. It doesn't say what it's a gift tag for. It actually gives their credit card number, so if I want to be super creative and trying to use a credit card that it probably expired in 1990, it just gives the date, October 18th or to December 18th, 1988. So it was bought for Christmas, which explains the Christmas box. It came in a little bag. Again, the bag was not marked. It could be any sort of bag, but it wasn't like a Ziploc or anything. So it had a bag that fit into the box. It had the tag. And it's in exceptionally good condition, as if it hadn't been used, so that it maybe was in storage for a long time. So maybe it came from Fields, in which case it should be more of a retail, but there is no mark. But there's also no name, like Fran, 1988. Like I don't know where this came from. So I'm not going to make a lot of money for it. I can probably, though, list it for around $30, because even if it is an at-home do-it-yourself ceramics item, it's still a cute piece. People can make their own decisions of what to do with the salt and pepper shaker, but you can see the little wedge there is where they do fit in. I kind of went back and forth from my own to determine maybe I could figure something out from the stoppers. And those stoppers do, sometimes you just have really weird memories. These actually remind me of my childhood, and I think my mom had these. So that kind of underscores that maybe it is a at-home ceramics piece, and the box and gift receipt were from a shirt or something. Who knows? So anyway, I'm going to list it. I'll put as much of that. I just spoke for 5 minutes on nothing, so I'll put as much of that as possible in my write-up on Etsy, and just see. It's still a cute mouse tray. It's fairly sizable, as you saw as I kept lifting it up. It's a fairly sizable piece. It would make a nice conversation piece, whether it's an actually designed store-purchased item or purchased from home. Related, well, not really related, but in my weird mind, the next thing I will show you, we had the mouse, now we've got the cats. So this was a pair of Georges Briard black and gold cats. Okay, how am I going to show you this? Okay, now they just look freaky. So you can kind of see the possessed cats that are showing through their eyes. They alternate. Maybe if I do it back far enough, maybe it'll be better. Maybe against my face. You can see they kind of alternate between black and gold cats running along the bottom. There's also a gold band running along the top. These actually sold online fairly recently. A pair of these sold for $22. I paid $1.50 for the pair. She only had $3 on them, and I got them for half price. So there's a little bit of staining on this one. I'm hoping some barkeeper's friend will be able to get that off. Barkeeper's friend, barkeeper, whatever Jeffrey recommends from Real Nifty Vintage. I bought some, and I've had mixed results of it. But, they're just cocktail glasses. They are signed. I have the name of Georges Briard right there. on the glasses themselves. Sure. You can kind of see it. Take my word on it. It says Georges Briard, which made them easy to look for. Georges Briard, cat, glass, black, gold. Bingo. So a pair of them sold for $22 in October, and a set of 4 of them sold for $30 also in October. So they've actually had activity. So I should probably be able to get around $20 for these, for the pair, assuming that these do clean up, plus shipping. Maybe $15 to $20 depending on, I did not find, there were no other listings on Etsy for these glasses, so I'm not going to be competing against anything, so I should be able to possibly do that $20. And I didn't mention, but again, since the mouse plate with the Weird's cheese, salt and pepper shakers, it seems fairly unique. That also did not have any competition on Etsy, so when I list that, I should have no problem, trying to at least listing it for the price that I want. Okay, I started this whole thing by saying how much great Japanese and Asian art they had, and then I went on to show you completely non-Japanese art. But one of the pieces I will now jump into is one of the first things that I saw when the pictures first came over. This wonderful pattern, it's called Oriental from Noritake. It's number 6341. Every piece, or at least all the big pieces, are very clearly marked. The Noritake with the Noritake label. She had an entire service for 12 plus extra pieces because they didn't all fit. This was one of those items that had the original Noritake packaging and it didn't all fit back into the box. So there were additional pieces that they had picked up somewhere along the way. So it had a minimum of 12 of everything. And then, again, a bunch of extra items. So the gravy bowl with the attached underplate, the vegetable bowl, the smaller platter, the bigger platters, there were all kinds of pieces. When she had them listed initially, they were listed for what I believe was $320. So even on half price day, they were $160. All in, there were probably over 100 pieces. I never actually did count them. I haven't listed these yet, so that's one of the projects that I've got. There were probably over 100 pieces, but $160 for this pattern, although it does sell. I found a couple different listings. The sets of 4 of the dinner plates have been selling fairly frequently, anywhere between $25 and $40. There were 3 listings within the last few months that sold in that range. The gravy boat sold for between 10 and 15. Some of the platters were selling between 10 and 20. Nothing was going for huge pieces, but if you've watched some of my earlier videos, you know just the way I'm doing this is a side hustle for me. I want to like the things that I'm working with, and I do really, really like this pattern. So it was something that I was interested in, but at $160, I just really didn't feel, yes, I could probably make some money. There is actually one listing from 2019 that did have a 12-piece setting of this pattern that sold, this is according to WorthPoint, sold for $280. So theoretically, everything I have should sell for at least the $280, and then I have to figure out what the extra pieces are that I have. So even at $160, it wouldn't have been out of the question. But it could take me a really long time to sell that, and I don't think I would list, I'm not planning on listing the entire set as one. It would take a lot to ship that. It would have to ship in multiple boxes. I always include free shipping within my listings. So I'd be listing that thing for, if I wanted to net $280 for the service for 12, I'd probably be listing it at $325 to $350. And I'm not sure anyone's really that interested in starting, unless you're getting married and this is your new China pattern, but really that's not the popular thing anymore. I'm going to end up selling this as replacements, which means I'm going to have these for some time until I finally sell them out. So didn't want to buy them, but she knew I was interested, and so I give her credit. She talked to me about it, and I said, you know what? I really am only going to be into this if I could get them for $100. Fully expecting her to walk away, and she didn't. She said, okay, I'll take 100. Oh, okay. So now I have a ridiculous number of pieces that I have to photograph, measure, post, research. But from what I've seen so far, I do think $100 was a good buy for these, because again, it was over 100 pieces, and I've definitely spent more than $1 a piece on items that I really like. The coffee, a service of 12 coffee mugs or coffee cups and saucers, those I'm probably only going to be able to sell for like 10 or 20 bucks total, because really nobody wants them. But the dinner plates, I think I'll probably be able to remake my money on the dinner plates and a couple of the serving pieces, and then see what happens. Some other pieces that they had a lot of lacquer. The next one I'm going to show is actually not Japanese. It is lacquer, but it's not Japanese. It's Coroc, and I apologize that I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Couroc, which is actually an American company, Monterey, California. It is very large to the point that I can't see what I'm doing. So it's a very large serving tray. This looks ridiculous. When I started doing some research for some comps, what this actually was, which I did not realize at the time I bought it, all of the mushroom are wood inlays, and then this leaf, and then the under of this, those are metal inlays into the paper mache, the lacquer. There is a original label on the back. Has the Coroc name, Monterey, California, and then the foil label. Some of it's been worn off. They probably washed it. So something serving pieces are cherished gifts because of their variety and beauty of design. Hand inlaid by master craftsmen, shells, coins, woods, and metals are fused into black phenolic, which I think is the plastic. So I guess maybe it's not lacquer, maybe it's plastic. They are impervious to alcohol and boiling water. Wash with mild soap and water. By Coroc, Monterey, California. This exact tray has sold 6 times in the last 3 months, from anywhere between $20 and $50. This one is upside down, sorry. This one does have, I'm not going to say it has condition issues, it's in good vintage condition. There's some of the pieces are, it seems a little bit scuffed. I'll have to see what I can, polish out. I don't want to use anything like super abrasive on it because I don't want to scratch it further. So I'll try and clean it up before I get some pictures taken. This was listed, or they had it initially for $10, so I paid $5. And based on what it was selling for, that shouldn't be a problem. It'll be a little bit of a pain to ship it because it is relatively large, as you can see. So I'll have to get an oversized box to be able to ship that out. But what it's selling for, I was very happy with, and I'll definitely be able to recoup my $5. Some more lacquer that they had, which I thought was this one I thought was kind of interesting. These were 2 trays. At some point, I'll pay attention so you don't see them upside down. 2 trays that clearly have the same design. They've got this little leaf and flower design. I don't know if that's a lotus, water lily, whatever it is, with the grasses coming out. One's rectangular, one is square. They're both black and red. But what's interesting is on the back of the rectangular one, it says O-N-O, the letters O-N-O, and they're kind of spaced out. So I don't know if those are initials or if that's the word Ono. Made in Japan. It's a blue and gold foil label that's in the middle of the tray, clearly the original. And then the square one, though, has the same foil and same floral design in the middle, but it says Yamanaka, made in Japan. So at some point, the company changed its name. I tried to do some research on Yamanaka and O&O. I found a bunch on Yamanaka. They are still actually producing lacquerware today, but I could not figure out what the O&O ever stood for, if it was an initials or if it was the name. So I'm not sure if at some point it changed ownership. Clearly the labels have the exact same floral colors, size, and everything, so they're related. I just can't quite figure out how old they are, because the company is still based in Japan, so the general rule, like, oh, it's made in Japan, therefore it's earlier. Well, it's still being made in Japan, so it's entirely possible these are completely modern. But most of everything else that they had was not. So I'm going to go with these are maybe 80s or 90s, just for getting them put up onto Etsy. They're really nice looking. I really couldn't find a lot online of this. I couldn't find much in the Yamanaka label or anything that had this pattern. I did find some lacquer trays. They don't sell for a lot of money, but I paid $3 for the pair. So I should be able to sell them for 15 to 20 bucks plus shipping. Maybe closer to 15, because they're not particularly rare, even though I couldn't find any. They're fairly run of the mill. I do like the looks of them. Finding the right keywords is going to be the problem with Etsy, to see what people are going to find or how they're going to find these. Okay, the next one, let's just say I like a sale. Yeah, we'll go with that, because I don't know why I bought this. So it's another lacquer tray. It has no label, no maker's mark, no anything, which usually steers me clear of things, because I hesitate how I'm going to list them if I don't have a maker or something specific to be able to say what I have. But this was just weird enough that I bought a fish platter. So these fish are dimensional, so they're you can actually feel the individual scales. It's still a lacquer tray. It may be, now that I read that Freimarck label that it said it was phenolic resin, maybe this is also phenolic resin. I need to do a little bit. It's a little bit heavier than some of the paper mache lacquer pieces that I have. So, I'm not sure. I don't know how to research it because I don't have a name to look up. It's got some condition issues, because you can see this is all supposed to be a solid red, and these are scratches that took the red surface off and took it down to the black. So it's got some wear, but I mean, to me, that just supports the idea that this is vintage, because really, who would be making this today? I paid $6 for it. I'm going to try and get about 30 for it, because it is just weird enough that it definitely will elevate itself away from the rest of the lacquer and plastic trays. And the color scheme and everything about it, it might just be enough that I think 25 to 30 bucks I can probably get plus shipping. And we're just going to see. It's a nice big size. It'll photograph well, so when people see it in my advertising, they might click on it just because whoa, wait a minute, are those fish? So got those. The next piece that I bought they're actually the next two pieces that I got were actually somewhat interesting. So it's a traditional estate sale. The entire place was open. You can go anywhere in the house, including the garage. So I went in the garage, and I'm not going to get into tools. I'm not going to resell those. I barely use them myself. So that's really not an area I spend a lot of time in. But they had a bunch of Halloween and holiday stuff kind of in boxes. And the boxes, to be perfectly honest, since it was the last day, they weren't fully unpacked. There was stuff that was still wrapped up, and they were kind of tucked into each other. So I don't know if some people didn't realize that was part of the sale. I've checked. I wanted to make sure I wasn't breaking into their personal items. And they're oh yeah, everything in the garage is for sale. So I opened up this box, and out came, did not fall, I picked them out, didn't break them, this little Frankoma individual teapot. It's marked Frankoma 6J. It still had a Goodwill sticker on it saying $1.99. And I asked, what she was selling it for. She said it was $1, but then when she added everything up, she ended up giving half price. So I ended up paying 50 cents for this. They don't sell for a lot. They sell for 12 to 20 bucks, but they do sell fairly regularly. There were a lot of listings over the last 6 months of this being sold, and there are currently a number of them on Etsy available for sale, but none in this color. Now, I will admit this color is somewhat sickly looking to me, so it's not my favorite Frankoma color that I've carried. So the fact that there aren't any of these listed, I don't think necessarily works in my favor. It could just be that nobody wants it, so no one's trying to sell it. But again, there are a couple that are listed. There is a tiny, tiny chip on the little lippy thing that goes that holds the lid in place. So it's not visible at all, and it doesn't have anything to do with what you're handling or touching, so it's not going to cut you. Typically I would not buy something that had the damage, but to be perfectly honest, until I started talking to you in this video, I didn't see that. Sorry. So it probably wouldn't have stopped me from getting it. It was 50 cents, even when I thought it was going to be $1. I have several pieces of Frankoma. I like it personally, so again, I like to handle things that I like to sell. I'll probably need to stop that at some point because I don't think I've sold any Frankoma pieces, so there's not really a huge market for it, but I still like handling them. So for for 50 cents, I should probably turn this around for around 10 to $12 plus shipping. So I'll at least, remake my money and see, hopefully it can sell. The other piece I found was a little bit more exciting. Although I was excited by the Frankoma, was this vase, brush pot, something. And then as I continue, this is what came out by itself. And then as I continued digging, I found this. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest. I'm not sure these go together. So you've got this kind of lighter color glaze and a darker color that it goes into, and the darker color on the bottom. And the glaze itself is only a two-tone dark brown with the reddish brown. That dark brown is in this, and there is a little bit of the reddish brown, but not in the same way. So it's entirely possible I stole what I think might be a coffee pot lid, because there's a hole in here for possibly for releasing steam, I guess, or I actually don't know what that hole would be for. They do look good together. And at a glance, you would not think they didn't belong to each other, but it's mine now. And I will admit, I looked through every box in the garage and never found anything else that this would match. So unless somebody else had bought the base to this and didn't know there was a lid, which is entirely possible because these boxes were just completely jumbled and things were wrapped up. I maybe did a marriage. It's not a bad marriage. We'll see if it lasts. But anyway, so this also, she quoted me $1, then gave me half price. So I paid 50 cents for this. I did inordinate amount of research on this one because there is a signature there, but good Lord, I could not read it. I have two different cameras that I was using. One is newer with a better camera. I was using a flashlight. I was trying to do shadows. I did the old fashioned, like this was some weird FBI. I took a piece of paper and a pencil and tried to scrape over it. Well, if you see that entire bottom's ridged, didn't work. In the end, what I believe it says is Kawahara. Kawahara. And that does actually fit and match pretty much what's there. That big loopy piece is part of the H. The Hara I could read. It was trying to figure out the initial letters. And I did find some other examples of Kawahara that look like this style of pottery. I couldn't find anything else that had this signature, but probably because when they were photographing, and it didn't show up because that's very hard to read. So anyway, there weren't a lot of listings. From the past 3 years, I found 3 different pieces that sold in a general. Some of them were a little bit more of the ovoid shape. I didn't find any that were exactly like this. And all of them sold for between $30 and $70. So yay. So I should be able to sell this fairly easily, whether they want the lid or not. I should be able to get, based on the sizes of some of the other pieces that sold, that $30 to $40 range plus shipping should be fairly attainable. And I just really like the look of that piece. I do have a lot of art pottery myself, and I do really like that. It is possible it is modern, because I found some references saying it was modern, but it's clearly also of an older style. So I'm not going to be too hung up about putting it on Etsy because it's an attractive piece and would fit in with what Etsy is selling. All right, the last item I'm going to cover is probably the favorite item that I bought, or one of the favorite at least, because again, I do like art pottery. And these were 2 pieces that I picked up. That one is this rectangle. I'm going to do them one at a time, because one is this rectangular tray. It's 17 inches long, and I think it was 9 inches deep. So it's kind of like it's slightly an odd shape. It's longer, it's disproportionately long, and then a very large shallow bowl plate, centerpiece bowl to go with it. Now the centerpiece bowl was adapted with a ring that they created. It was not part of the original. Well, I don't think it was part of the original bowl, because to me, it doesn't sit in there very well. I'd be a little bit nervous to hang it using that, but I'm assuming that's what they used. This piece has a very odd kind of pseudo signature in the middle that is basically impossible to do any research on. This one initially, had a very large J6 something. Turned out to be an F, because after doing a little bit more research or looking at it, you can see it actually says Freimarck. Freimarck. Once I found that incised mark and started in the research, I hit pay dirt. There are all kinds of these pieces. This design, it's a studio pottery line. Several of these pieces were made. What was interesting about it is this piece, I couldn't find any examples of. There were rectangular trays, but they were significantly smaller, like 7 inches by 9 inches, so almost half the size of this, and also a number of pieces that were square. Now the square pieces, they still had, I don't know if this is a butterfly, maybe. They still had this design. It was just on a different scale. The square pieces were only selling for around 15 to 20 bucks, so those weren't selling for a lot. The half tray, that size half of this, that actually, the most recent one sold for 65 bucks. But most of the items that were selling in the $20 to $50 range for the tray. The centerpiece bowl, or the hanging bowl, circular piece, could not find any pieces of it at all. Did a Google search, did just general searches, did WorthPoint, Etsy, everything. Nobody has ever sold, and WorthPoint goes back, I believe, to 2007 or 2008. So no one has sold the circular piece or the round piece on eBay in 10 to 12 years. So I'm assuming that means it's fairly rare. I will have to base it on some of the other pieces, but I'm thinking this one I should be able to list. Probably going to be listing this in the $50 to $60 range plus shipping. So this will probably end up going out like 75 bucks. And the bowl, probably going to be listing that for 100. And I think I can get them. They are really attractive pieces. They don't need to go together. I will definitely separate them. But it's just a really nice piece, and it's got a couple different colorations to it. This is actually like a black with a blue kind of in it. I don't know if you can really tell. So there's a kind of a two-tone. The swipes that are coming down almost have like a greenish gray to them. These are kind of reddish brown. So really much whatever color scheme you have, if you've got any sort of a modern color scheme, this will go with it. And whether you hang it using the hook that's on there, or if you use it as a centerpiece bowl or whatever. I doubt they're food safe, although I guess they could be. They're just really nice pieces, and I paid $13 for the pair. So she originally had them listed for $26, and I paid half price, so $13 for the pair. I'll be able to make that up with just the sale of one and then some. So really excited. The fact they are not listed is no bearing on anything. There was just a lot of stuff going on. I got them a couple weeks before Christmas. Just a lot going on with the holidays. I think I mentioned I was sick while I was on vacation too. So just a lot that this stuff just didn't get listed. My New Year's resolution was to try and get more things listed. Just today, I posted another dozen plus items onto Etsy, and I have another dozen or so sitting in draft form waiting to get posted. And then all of this will need to be photographed, measured, and priced and posted as well. So I'm not sure. The video will probably go up this weekend, but I don't think I will be getting the items posted until probably later in the week. But watch my Etsy store. Everything, my social media is done, and Etsy is done under Trusty Huckster Mercantile, typically at TH Mercantile, so you don't have to spell out the whole thing. My email address is the full thing. It's trustyhuckstermercantile@gmail.com. thmercantile@gmail.com was already taken by somebody. Oh well. But you can follow me on Etsy, follow me on Facebook and Instagram. So some of these will be posted up on there as well. And if you've gotten this far into the video, thank you very much for watching me on YouTube. This is a relatively new endeavor for me, as is all of my resale, but the YouTube channel is particularly new. So if you have liked what you've watched and you've gotten this far, I really would appreciate you giving me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, comment below, and that'll really help other people find me and what I'm doing. So thank you very much. Again, this is Patrick with Trusty Huckster Mercantile, and I will talk to you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.